right, welcome back to another edition of the Goblay Show. I'm your host, Billy Goble, and today we have a special guest. She is a friend of mine from Disney that we worked years ago in the entertainment department. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Miss Christine Cartell to the show. Christine, welcome to the Goblay Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been too long. How you been?
Good, busy, crazy.
Yeah.
There's been like a whole lot of life in between the last time we worked together. So
yes, I can't remember the last time I worked with you. It's been, I don't know when you left, because a lot of people don't understand when you leave Disney. Nobody really, they don't say, they just go peace out. I'm gone, and they don't ever come back.
Well, I mean, I left the first time I left, but I didn't really leave. I just went to work in another park. I left in 2003.
Okay.
Not aging ourselves at all.
No.
I left in 2003, and then I came back in 2000. So I was gone for like 7 months. I came back like October, November of 2004. I was there, or no, of 2003. I was there for all of 2004. Gotcha. And then I left again at the beginning of 2005. No. Yes. Left at the beginning. Left again. I went back to Japan in 2005, and then I went pretty much from there in 2000 through the beginning of 2006. I went to Hong Kong. So then I was seasonal, but I came back seasonally. But I don't think that you were still doing the thing, and I was there for like one day every 6 months. So
yeah, the seasonal status used to be you could work pretty much one day a year, and you were good. And now that's how I had to leave, is because I got a full-time job and I couldn't they make you do 100. Well, it's probably changed since then, but at the time it was 150 hours in every quarter. So they go back a year.
Oh, they told me it was it was 150.
They go back a year, so you try
to
to keep it up as much as you can, because what happens is you might consider, I worked in May, but then the next time they don't count that May, you count, they go forward. So I called it the revolving wheel of death, because
well, it was because so I think I missed a step in there. So in 2006, I finished in Hong Kong in early 2006, I think it was. It was the end of the opening cast contract of Hong Kong, and then moved to New York and ended up at the World of Disney there when the World of Disney was on Fifth Avenue and they did shows. Okay. I was hired there. And then when that closed, they transferred those of us who had worked in the parks previously, transferred our statuses back to Orlando. And then from then I was seasonal, and then they instituted the 150-hour thing. And I did a couple of special events in New York, and, went back and forth for my reel every 6 months. And then at my last one, that when they were like, how short are you on your hours? And I was like 120. And they're like, oh, we can't fudge that many for you. I was like, I didn't think so. And then proceeded to approve me in another character. And I was like, you guys know I'll never do this, right? They're like, nah. So they threw me another character. I was like, I'm 30.
It is what it is. I mean, we've been in those situations where, you're not going to be in a certain area so long, and they're like, whatever. It is what it is. They'll just, they need to train somebody, I guess. They got to keep their job.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
But I was a trainer, but but I never went through the training for it. And then after I was officially separated, as they called it, from the company, I got a call right before the new, I don't even know what the parade is called right now anymore. But right before the new parade opened, Disney Festival of Fantasy.
Oh yeah. The Festival of Fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a call, and they're like, hi, we're calling from such and such in, Disney, whatever department handles floats and creating new shows. And I'm like, we understand you have some experience with parades. And I'm like, yes. And they said, we understand you have some experience with a fin. And I said, yes. And they said, will you please come tell us where to put the seat on the new aerial float? So I was like, sure. So they sent a car for me at my very grown up day job and in New York. And I took a car up to Yonkers to the warehouse where they build Broadway sets and apparently Disney floats. The Rapunzel float was also there. The Tangle float was also there. And we FaceTimed or Skyped or whatever the technology of choice was at the time. It wasn't Zoom with Main Gate. And so I was like, hi guys. And I was up on the float and I'm like, I'm a taller fish. So you might want to, accommodate for the shorter ones. You might need to do amount of sliding, whatever. So I put a fin on and,
felt like nothing. You never left.
Yeah. And then they had me man their booth for Actorfest.
Okay.
One time when they were like recruiting. And I remember this one girl in particular. I think she went in. I think they were holding auditions at the same time. I'm not entirely sure. But she was darling. And I'm pretty sure that she got pulled for face, which was
cool.
Great. She was very
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of that whole process, how did you come across? I mean, where are you from originally? We'll start with that.
Oh, okay. I'm from Michigan. I'm from a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, Shelby Township.
Oh, that's right. Because I used to hold up my hand. You would tell me where yes.
Yeah, this is. I guess I think this is how you're saying it. Yeah, so I'm from right.
Oh, okay.
Shelby Township. That's right.
I remember asking you because I would always like to. Yeah, the UP. The UP, yes, which I didn't know anything about, the Mackinac Islands. I didn't know anything about all that stuff. And that's why I like to ask people where they're from or where they grew up or how they even got in this area where I am. Yeah. And the more I know, the better off. I mean, I used to ask questions all the time and it would be like I was raised there and I'd never been there at all. And so it was like, just try to use that for my advantage, especially with the guests. Like I had the name tag said Dwight one time and I was from Brooklyn, New York. And I had no idea anything about Brooklyn. I'd been there. I'd been to New York once prior to that. That was my senior trip. And it was so like structured. Like we stayed in New Jersey. We'd drive into the city to do things and we come back to New Jersey. We never went anywhere else. So I had no idea what I was talking about. But the more I asked, the more people gave me, insight. Sometimes they'd mess with me and they're like, you should tell them you're from this area right here or this area right there. You should tell them Red Hook. And I'm like, So I was like, oh, sounds like a nice place. And they're like, yeah. So, and then somebody would ask me, oh, hey, where you at? Where are you from in Brooklyn? I'm like, Red Hook. And they're like, all right, I'll see you later.
Yeah. It's far.
I was far. I was like, oh, okay. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
Red Hook's fine. It's just far.
Yeah, I heard it was better than it was.
Everything,
Yes.
Gentrification. What do you want?
Yes. Right.
But also, New York. First time I ever went to New York was on a trip for Disney. It was the first time I ever went to the city.
Oh, really?
It was with Kim Sweebel.
Oh, Sweebs.
It was to promote Princess Diaries 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was
a minute ago.
Did you do? Well, I was going to say, I wasn't trying to date the time. I was just going to say, where was that? I was trying to think of where they did those.
So we did our event was at the Disney store when those still were probably
right there
everywhere.
in Times Square.
No,
no.
There because the Disney, we did, ours was in New Jersey, like you just said, in New Jersey.
Okay.
At Paramus Park Mall. We stayed every time we're in New Jersey and we pass it, I'm like, oh, I did that. And then when we passed I think it was like a, whatever kind of hotel it was. But it was like my first time on a work trip and like understanding what per diem was. And like Kim, of course, showed me the ropes and she had been to New York several times. So we had a whole day where we didn't have to do anything. So she took me around most of like Midtown, like the depth and breadth of Midtown Manhattan, Central Park and everything like that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I need to move here soon.
Isn't it funny how you kind of have a preconceived idea that might be somewhere you might be later on? Like you have this, I don't know, like a beacon. It attracts you and you go, I can see myself living here. And then you end up doing that. And I just think it's cool how people end up where they are. You know what I mean? Even though they don't mean to.
Well, for me, I mean, I was a theater major and like I've been performing since I was wee. But it was interesting because for me, like as much as I love Disney, performing there was always a job, meaning it was not, I knew I was never going to be there performing long term. Right. Nothing to say that I wouldn't come come back if it was the right thing at the right time, whatever. Like, I'm never say never, never, I loved my time at Disney. However, it was one of those things that like we got into the city and like I'd already been thinking like within the next 5 years, I need to be in either New York, LA, or Chicago.
Right.
The theater scene in Chicago is fantastic. And it was just New York. And I remember walking around and like, because I'm a, musical theater nerd and that is my first love, I knew where I was and I knew like, because you see it on TV your whole life, right? Like everything is like New York, all the news shows, Today Show, everything. But I knew where I was and I knew landmarks based on Broadway lyrics. So like Angelo's and Maxie's, the lyrics just from the beginning of Thoroughly Modern Millie. I was like, oh God, that's sax, all of Brothers Brooks, all these things. Not that I hadn't heard them before, but it was just like, that's what was playing in my head as I was walking around Manhattan for the first time. I was just like, oh, I should be here. So
it's funny you say that because when I went the last time, that was 2011, I think Jay-Z's New York song was in my head, like because I was where I was staying in near Washington Heights was shout out to Washington Heights. Great place to live. Great little neighborhood.
We love it.
But we went to that 145th and where that McDonald's was on the corner, like Jay-Z said,
It's there.
It is. It really is. Trifecta, or am I saying that right? Trifecta?
Tribeca.
Tribeca. Sorry.
Yeah.
See, I'm not from there. I don't know. So, we went there in that area. That's, I believe that's where, isn't that where Robert De Niro was?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
That's a very wealthy area. Tribeca.
Right. Okay.
Very wealthy.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's what I based mine on. You had your show tunes. I had Jay-Z.
Yeah. Listen, whatever roadmap works.
It got us to the same place. That's all I'm saying. What are some things you like about New York?
Oh man, it's weird because we still have our place there. We live there. That is where we were based. We were just there, a week and a half ago. But we've been on tour. My husband's in the national tour of Les Mis. So we've not been there a lot since September of 2022.
Gotcha.
We've been traveling North America, which has been wonderful. And we have our 4.5-year-old is with us. She's been touring for over half her life at this point.
Oh, wow.
But New York, I will say New York was an adjustment. It was like, okay, we're doing this. And that wasn't really like a big, huge, like, oh, should we or shouldn't we? That was just like, okay, we made the decision. And we made the decision summer of 2005 when Nick and I met in Tokyo. We were both working for Disney. We did not work together. We met in the currency exchange line at Narita Airport. We'd both been there before, but never met. And we decided, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna move to New York together. And that was before I went to Hong Kong. And he went back because he was born in Michigan, 15 minutes from where I was from, but at 6 months old, his family moved to Arizona. So he grew up in Phoenix, Scottsdale area.
Gotcha.
So he went back to do a contract in Phoenix. I did my stint in Hong Kong, and then we moved. And where was I going with this? Oh man, cut this out. What was the question?
Like living in New York,
living in New York. Yes. Okay. Got it. So before we moved to Hong Kong. So when we went to New York and we were going like on our apartment hunting trip, which people don't know this, but when you move to New York, you don't like set out to find an apartment months before. You do it weeks before. Like everything moves very, very quickly. We somehow found a place where a guy was like, hey, I'm moving out of this apartment. So we had a month that we could like go back, get our stuff, stuff from Arizona for Nick, from Michigan and Florida for me, and like drive a Penske truck across the country. We had that month grace, which is unusual. New York real estate moves, especially the rental market, moves very quickly, which we didn't know. But I remember we were in a cab from the airport driving up 8th Avenue, and I was very quiet. And Nick was like, what's wrong? And I was just like, I don't know if I can do this. And he's like, what do you mean you don't know if you can do this? And I was just like, for whatever reason, New York loomed so large in my mind that I was like, I don't know if I can like live here, survive here, make it here. And he's like, you lived in Tokyo and Hong Kong. Like you figured out, because I was like, well, the trains and this. And he's like, this will at least be in your native language.
Right.
You're going to be okay.
Right.
And it took me, I don't know, I wouldn't say quite 6 months, but it took me a while to like get that adjustment of like, oh, just like and I do think that the experience of living abroad in massive cities prepared me for New York, because like just first of all, the walking, it's like, people walk. We didn't have a car in New York until the pandemic. We did not have a car until then. And the reason we had a car in New York is because we had a baby at the top of the pandemic, and we're like, we need to get around and do things. So like mass transit all the time, walking all the time, buying, you don't go and do these massive grocery hauls, right? Like that you do in suburbia. I grew up in suburbia, Nick grew up in suburbia, and there's something wonderful about that. But in the city, you don't necessarily do that. Like you go to the bodega and you get the few things that you might need that day, or that, for the next couple of days. You don't like, it's a different lifestyle. And it's, I think that one of the things that, because not to get political, and you can cut this out if you want to, but one of the things about living in a city where you are around people and you are sharing space with people all of the time, on the subway, you are more than, during rush hour, you are more than shoulder to shoulder with other human beings from other walks of life who have an entire story, and hardships and problems and all of these things. And like, there's an exposure to things that you might be sheltered from. I know that I was in a very, not diverse area. My high school was a little bit more diverse as that was going. It's much more diverse now. But growing up, like I wasn't exposed to all of these different, cultures and religions and languages.
Yes.
And, and even going to Japan and to Hong Kong and living there, those are pretty homogenous cultures. And like you're the novelty, right? As the Disney performer.
Yeah.
But being, in the literal melting pot of the country, it's one of those things where you're like, oh. And I think, people talk about being elite on the coasts or in the big cities or whatever, and I don't think it's an elitism. I think it's just you don't know what you don't know.
That is true.
And once you have that exposure to other people and other cultures and other ways of thinking, and I also think traveling abroad is, I don't care where you go, just if you can go. And I know how very privileged that sounds. I did it on the dime of Mickey Mouse. So like, I get it. But I think that it makes you, it just expands your horizon so much. And like, I wish that for everyone. I wish travel and exposure to things that are not what you were brought up with. I think that's so important.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following: Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck, the delicious mobile coffee truck that brings you the caffeination inspiration you need. We deliver signature coffee products like our Nitro Cold Brew and Caramel Frappe to any occasion or festivity. And for those who don't like coffee, we offer a variety of delicious hot chocolates, energy drinks, lemonades, and teas. That's Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I think that's very important to understand and to experience other culture. I love that. Just like I said before, I would ask questions about like, hey, Christy, how was it in Michigan? Like, y'all had seasons. We don't have seasons. Yeah, right. So I wanted to be a little bit a part of that. And when you talk about people traveling, I think the biggest thing is it's not that they can't afford it. There's a will. If there's a will, there's a way. I used to say this all the time when I was at Disney, and you would see somebody like there'd always be a family that stay for like 2 weeks. And you're like, and there's like, it's a big family, and you would see them. And the only reason why I know that is because you consistently saw them. You could go to another park and you saw them. You knew they were there for a long period of time. How do they afford that? I can't do that like just at the drop of a hat. But what I didn't realize is
Mm-hmm.
they might have been saving for years.
Oh yeah.
And this might have been a vacation of a lifetime. Right. Right.
Yep.
So I think we automatically kind of just like cancel ourselves out when we say, well, I can't do that because, or limit ourselves, and they try to keep people from doing things they really want to. Most of the time it's just fear. It's the unknown. Yeah. It's what kept me from seeing places of art. I mean, the only time I've been out of this country is to the Bahamas. That's it. So I'm working on it. I'm baby stepping.
Hey,
but
listen.
7 years ago was my first flight. I would have never thought that I'd never been on an airplane before that. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what kept me. I know. But I do enjoy it. I still get scared. I'm scared of heights. Sure. I still get scared. But I took that step, and I had to have some kind of realization. Like, look, if you don't do this, you're never going to see the world. You're never going to see other parts of the country that you can drive there. But my God, you're going to spend more time in the car. Now, I love to drive, but when I came to that realization, like, hey, I can see so much more. I started to get out of my comfort zone. And, you've got the experience going out of another country, like for real, to Shanghai and Tokyo. I would love to go to those two places. And I'm working on that. We're supposed to go to Italy in 2 summers, so I've never been.
Okay. So many things you just said that I want to like.
It's fine.
Wait, Italy.
Yeah.
We were supposed to go when we got married 16 years ago. We were going to go our honeymoon was going to be a Mediterranean cruise. And the only other cruise that I had been booked on was in 2002, a Disney cruise. And I got a call in the break room in Ariel's Grotto. And there was like, there's been an outbreak of the Norwalk virus. So you as a cast member have been bumped. And I was like, oh, okay. And then in 2008, the economy imploded. So we didn't go on that. We just took that. We had travel insurance. We took that money and we're like, just in case we need to, live. So we didn't go on that one. But we did for our 10-year anniversary in 2018. We went to Europe for the first time. Awesome. And we went to Italy. Where in Italy are you going?
Look, we're not pinpointing anything down just yet, but I do want to go to Rome. I do want to go to was it Naples? I want to say we have that here in Florida. I mean,
they're very different.
I'm totally kidding. Yes, obviously they're very different. But they're both on a peninsula. Just saying. Coincidence? I don't think so.
Probably not. That part's probably, but that's probably where the similarities end.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say.
And I agree with you. You might have an Italian guy there. That's about it.
I'm sure there are many. There are many
retired Italian guys. But the other one is, now correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I've never been there, but isn't that where the Alps stop at the north tip? Or there's a mountain range? It might not be the Alps. Is it the Alps? I don't know either.
I used to be good at geography. I used to be the smart kid.
If you were to ask me in the United States, I could probably just like pinpoint it. But since this is like, no pun intended, foreign territory, I don't really know, but the other group that we're going to go with, they said that there's a mountain range, and I could be completely 100% wrong. What I'm talking about?
There's mountains because like Vesuvius is there, and Pompeii.
That might be what they're talking about. Vesuvius, yeah, okay. But I would love to go to. My grandfather told me if I ever get a chance to go to Luxembourg. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's very small country. Yeah. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. That's we have a nice there's a World War II like Memorial. There's a cemetery there for all our guys that were over there.
Yeah.
That's where General Patton's buried, I believe.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he died over there in a Jeep accident, and they buried him there. I don't think they ever brought him home. That he lived, or he lived. He stayed over there, and
Oh, no way.
so yeah. But I remember my grandfather telling me before he passed, he's like, hey, if you ever get a chance to go to just go to Luxembourg. Germany's beautiful too, but I was telling my mom, you could take a train once you can fly to England and take a train to Europe, and you can go anywhere you want. It's up for grabs. But are there some things you suggest while we're in Italy, or?
So we did it wrong. We had 4 days in Paris first, which was amazing and not enough
Gotcha.
at all. We did not do Disneyland Paris.
I was going to ask.
No,
come on.
Well, listen. Hopefully, we'll get there. But like,
one day.
I would like to see some other things. I would like to see real castles instead of.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
There you go.
So we did Paris for 4 days, which was lovely, and then we did this. I say we did this wrong because so this was our like 10-year delayed honeymoon, and we went to Florence first.
Okay.
And Florence is amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it. It's beautiful. And if you end up going there, I have a restaurant to send you to.
Do you have to do you do the?
That's no, you don't have to do that. No, not Italian at all. But I would.
Sorry,
if you end up, no, it's okay. That's not Italian. My best friend would be like, she is Italian. No, I have a restaurant for you in Florence. It's beautiful. And then we went to this like amazing, like just, we went to the Amalfi Coast. We stayed right in between Positano and Amalfi, in Conca dei Marini. And it was a monastery.
Okay.
And it is now it's an amazing resort. And no children allowed. Like, I think you have to be over the age of 16 to be there. And it's like on a cliff, and it's just the infinity pool that just overlooks.
Oh, wow.
It's stupid. And then we went to Rome. Don't do that. Because Rome is like, and it was hot. And it was after being just like cradled in this like peaceful lap of luxury and just, a spa and day trips and like boats and like just chill. Mm-hmm. Then you're just like, and you're in a city and there are ruins and there's a ton of cats for some reason. And also we got lost. Like this is before like you had unlimited data plans that were international and everything. We're like, we've got maps and feeling it wasn't that long ago, but it was before data was more affordable. So it was, I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a meme that has like an aerial view of New York, which is on a grid system until you get to the village, down in the village, and then it's a no-go. And then there's an aerial view of Boston. And in the New York side of the meme, it says New York, because we want you to know where you are. And then it says, and Boston, because fuck you. And that's how Rome felt. It was
wow.
It was, I remember us just being hot on the side of the road. We had done the Colosseum, we had done Circus Maximus, and we were just trying to find somewhere to like get a snack and a glass of water and maybe a coffee. And it was just, we were lost. We just lost. And it was like, this is just like being in New York.
Right.
But it's all in Italian and there's ruins everywhere.
Right.
So,
did you go to the Colosseum?
Yes. We went to the Colosseum.
The Colosseum is like absolutely one of my, like, it's something on my bucket list. I mean, I watched a documentary about it. It was so crazy how they used to have like boat fights in there. They would fill it up with water inside, and they would have ships come in. They would like pirate. They look like pirate ships, but they're probably not. But they would just battle it out, and they would try to sink each other in the middle of the. I'm like,
the whole thing is just
crazy.
Like, I think growing up, you like see this, you see the architecture, and you're like, when you're young, and you're like, oh wow, cool, and then you find out what happened there, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Not great. It's not great.
Like they open a trap door and this tiger comes out, and they had all this little mechanism before, before there was hydraulic lifts and stuff, they would have it where it would be on gears, and they would lower a cage, or not lower, they would raise a cage up, and then they could just open this trap door, and this tiger would come out, or a lion, or whatever it was that had teeth, would come out and either eat people, or they used it to fight another animal. I don't know what they did, but it's crazy.
Yeah, they're killing people for sport, and it was it's class warfare. It's awful.
Basically, yes. It makes the betting system now look very G-rated, because I'm sure they were taking bets on the side. As long as there's no fanfare or whatever it is.
Well, that's that thing. It's like not like oh, just who benefits? Who benefits from this terrible thing that's happening?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about traveling.
Yeah.
And you're on the road as we speak, and you're in Chicago right now.
No, we're in Minneapolis right now.
Oh, Minneapolis. Okay, okay.
It's very cold.
Man, I was way off.
You weren't. You actually are. We're going to be in Chicago. So we're in Minneapolis now.
Yes.
We're in our second week. We're in a 2-week sit down. I've never been here when it's warm. This is my 4th time in Minneapolis. Nick was here on Phantom, the year of the polar vortex.
Okay.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, if you're in Florida, you might. But it was very cold.
I remember everybody talking about it, but we didn't experience any of that down here.
No firsthand.
Yeah, right.
It was the day that they left, and I remember this vividly. It was winter of 2013 into 14. As they were, I had somehow flown out the one day that flights were able to get out, and they were traveling on a bus from Minneapolis to Chicago, and the state had declared it was a state of emergency across Minnesota. People's eyelashes were freezing between getting from their hotel to the bus. And it was the real feel outside was negative 52 degrees.
Wow.
So that was very, very cold. That's the first time I was here. And I've only been here in December or November since then. So I'm never here when it's warm, but I'm sure the summers are gorgeous.
Well, you make me feel bad now, because we were just at Gaylord Palms in Orlando, and we did the ice thing. and I thought I was cold there. Like I'm
sure it was.
I knew I was going to be cold, but we didn't bring gloves. We didn't think about it. It was kind of like we may do this, we may not. We went and had lunch. It was kind of like a holiday thing we did for the family. Whatever, we didn't have lunch. Decided to do the ice thing, which I had never done it before, so I didn't know what to expect. And it was the elf theme, which is really cool. It was all elf. It looked like they had ice sculptures made. It looked like New York City.
Oh,
it was pretty cool. Everything was made out of ice. I mean, even the walls that you walk through. I'm like shocked by this, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's called ice, Billy. Duh. I mean, why wouldn't it be all ice? But we went down the slide.
Oh, you did.
And in the parka, which I'm glad I had the parka on.
Yep.
But it was so cold at the top, Chrissy. I told the girl, she had no face mask. I think she had gloves on, but maybe not. She didn't have a hat or anything. She's standing at the top, and it's just blowing cold air on top of the ice to make it cold. And I'm like, can I just kind of go? Can I just slide down real fast so I can get down there where it's warmer? Because
oh my gosh,
I didn't want to be right there. And she's like,
yeah.
I said, I don't know how you stand this. And she's like, she looks at me and she just looks at me and she goes, oh, I get paid to do this. I'm like, so you're getting paid to get hypothermia, basically.
Well, I mean, think about what we got paid to do in the parks and how
yeah, I know. But we did it with a smile.
Used to.
Yeah, we did it with a smile.
Well, Not when you couldn't see my face.
Well, that is true. You could always see my face, so I had to
always
always
see your face, and most of the time you could see mine, but there were days.
Yes, there were days. You got to what we like to call take a day off, and sometimes it was considered a treat. When you got to randomly go in. A lot of people didn't see it that way. They're like, "Ah, why? Yeah. Toontown's full. We don't need you."
Yeah. Yeah.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Webster Ace Hardware and Farm Supply are generous sponsors for today's podcast. They have been a family-owned business for 27 years. This helpful hardware store sells items such as archery, Ariat clothing and boots, Wrangler jeans, case knives, Hammond's candies, and live fishing gear. They also have a full selection of hardware, RV supply, propane, Ben Moore, Royal & Clark, and Kingston paints. You need a barn or fencing job done? Custom barn kits and roofing metal are provided at your local Ace Hardware store. What about a new grill for the yard? Traeger, Big Green Egg, Weber, and Blackstone are found here, along with all the accessories to go with it. Stock up your workshop with DeWalt, Milwaukee, or Craftsman tools. They got you covered. Remember to go to ace.com to shop their entire line to have items shipped directly to the store. Have you been to the parks besides lately or anything?
Yeah, we just did. Nick had a vacation week from the show in October. He did a couple of concerts at Judson's Live at Dr. Phillips Center.
Oh, okay.
So he just released an album in July called 1,000 Spotlights, and
cool.
I co-executive produced it with him, and then I write he's done a series of one man solo cabaret shows that I write and he does.
Okay.
And he did those two shows, and then the day after we did that, we went to Not So Scary. And we did a whole family. We did a pretty epic family costume this year, and we were with the Weinmans, Mandy Weinman, née London.
Yes, Mandy London.
We dreamed this up like either right before Sully was born or right after she was born, and we were like kind of waiting until she was about 4 because we're like we know that we probably don't get to have as much of a say in her costumes going forward because she is quite an articulate and opinionated young lady. Yes. And so we were like, okay, this is what we want to do. And I was like, so she was Sullivan was Briar Rose. And Nick was not Prince Philip, but the scene in the woods where the animals, the owl and the squirrel and the two bunnies steal his hat and cloak and boots.
Yes.
Nick one is that. He had
that's cool.
Beak and everything.
That's cool.
Yeah, his costume was awesome.
That's awesome.
Mandy so we did a very niche moment in the film. You remember, so at that moment where she's out picking berries because they need to get her out of the cottage, the fairies don't have they've just gotten their magic back, but they still have they're still in like their peasant garb, and they don't have their wings. And they're doing make it pink, make it blue, and the dress.
Yes.
So Mandy was the dress, pink and blue. She had like the black headsuit on, which they told her that like your face needs to be showing at all times, and so she only had the head part up for pictures. But still, it was still great. The effect was there. So it was literally the dress as it clashed. But in that same moment, Merryweather turns Flora blue. And Flora turns Merryweather pink. So Dennis, her husband, was Flora, but blue. Dylan, her firstborn, was just Fauna because Fauna's, she can't bake, she can't really, she's a little dippy.
She's just there.
Merryweather, she's trying to make a cake and she's, not good at it. And then Merryweather, their youngest, Benjamin, was Merryweather, but in pink.
Okay.
So they had turned each other the opposite. It was fair. And then I was Maleficent.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it was great.
Of course. Yeah. Those are a good time. The Not So Scary Halloween party. I've been to a couple. We went with I kind of like it's do you remember the Kavanaughs? They were from Pittsburgh. They're from Pittsburgh. They had the kids that would dress up like attendants and guest relations. And
no,
I'll have to show you.
I vaguely remember people dressed up as guest relations. Like kids
they did like, but they would do like, sometimes they would do like Lion King, and this one particular time they did the Halloween party that I went to with them. So basically, I adopted this family. Like I was like, I'm with you guys now. Like they're from Pittsburgh, and my mom's from up there, and so like I've been to their house. We went on vacation together down in West Palm Beach, and so I was like kind of like I took care of the kids. So it's like more like a Manny. It was cool. They're great. They're great people. But the one we went to, we dressed up like the Little Mermaid unit. So yes. I was Scuttle. It was great. I even had the spyglass, and I was like, we went to see Ariel, and I was like, Ariel, whoa, what a swim! Yeah, whoa, what a swim! He turns it around. Oh, hey, it was cool. I mean, it was. I mean, I had Crocs on that were like, I looked like I had web feet. It was cool.
I love the attention to detail.
So it was really, really cool. And but that was the night that Michael Bublé was there, and he was watching parade, and I didn't know he was there until I went to the bathroom, and I'm standing there at the urinal, and he's standing next to me. I'm like, oh. I was like, another sunny day has come and gone away, huh?
You did not say that to him.
No.
Oh my goodness.
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay. All right. That would have been a good line.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. So, but it was funny because, I mean, how many times do you go to the bathroom? Michael Bublé's in there with, I mean, just so happened to be in there, just, hey, Michael Bublé's over here at the next urinal. I mean, come on. But no, it's a good time. And what was some of your favorite things that you remember about Tokyo? I mean, I've never been there. I know you guys did a bunch of stuff over there.
It's just better.
They go all out. People that don't know, Tokyo's like the creme de la creme. It's like they're not afraid to spend money.
But they also know how to spend. They're like, they know what brings people in.
Right.
It's, you get, they change out parades more often. They change out shows more often. They know that that's what's bringing people in and back. And they want to give more variety. Their merch
merchandise is way better. Yeah.
Their merch is amazing. But I think, I love the people in Tokyo. They're incredible. I think that though, if there's one thing that I always tell people if they're going, and like this year was like a huge year for people going to Japan. I know that like the yen against the dollar was a huge factor, but like people who are not necessarily Disney people in my life, I was like, oh, you're going to, okay, if you have a day to spare and you're going and you have any inkling at all wanting to go to Disney, go to Disney Sea, because I love Disneyland. It's beautiful. It's huge. It's like, it took all like the best parts of Disneyland and Disney World Magic Kingdom and put them together. And it's this beautiful, huge hodgepodge, combination of it.
Oh yeah.
But then when they opened Disney Sea, it was just like, you won't find another park like that anywhere in the world. Yeah. It was performing there. Because the lands are different there. It was, the centerpiece is not a castle. The centerpiece is the volcano for the ride Journey to the Center of the Earth, which you will only find there. The lands are like, there's New York, or New York Harbor, I think. It's New York Harbor. And they had like a Broadway style show there before. I think that's where they ended up putting the Tower of Terror when that finally went in. That went in after I was there. But they have Mermaid Lagoon, which is like being in Atlantica. They have the Arabian coast, which is being in Agrabah. You don't just you have the marketplace and the palace. So when you're doing character sets there, you're in your movie. You're in your movie. You're running around in your. It's amazing. But that's not it. Like the Hotel Miracosta, which I think this is the same in Disneyland, where you have the hotel, the Grand Californian Hotel.
Okay.
When it's like, it's in you walk into the park, right? I think you walk into Disney California Adventure. Yeah, we did this last year, and I'm so much more well-versed in Walt Disney World than I am Disneyland, because I've only been to Disneyland twice. But the Hotel Miracosta is right there. It's in Disney. So you have Italy, like you have Venice, the canals of Venice, and you have the American waterfront, which is like Cape Cod and Boston. You have, where was Mystic Rhythms? Mystic Rhythms was in, it's like kind of like an Amazon themed, and that was like where the Indiana Jones ride is.
Okay.
It's been a minute since I've been there. We want to take Sullivan there so badly, but we want to wait till she's a little bit older, so that she'll remember it. But that is my favorite park. It is, aside from the fact that just the food's different, that like the different flavors of popcorn that you can get are different there. The snacks that you can get are, I mean, some might say they're not better. I think they're better because it's not all just fried. And I know that the parks have gotten a lot better about having a variety of choices. But listen, I haven't been there since 2005. So we're going on 2 decades, and I can only imagine that it's gotten better. Right. But that's my favorite thing about being in Disney, Tokyo Disney, was Disney Sea. Gotcha. Tokyo as a whole is a whole different thing.
Right. CY Western Company is located in Bushnell, Florida. It's a great place for boots, clothing, gifts, and accessories for the whole family. They are a family-owned and operated business that opened in 2008. They offer free gift bagging and layaway services, and also a 10% discount for 4-H and FFA members with proof of membership. Be sure to like them on Facebook, where customers can stay updated on sales and giveaways. You can find them next to Lowry's True Value Hardware in Bushnell, open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, and Saturdays, 9 to 5. Be sure to check out CY Western Company. Well, you said Indiana Jones a minute ago. We're getting an Indiana Jones area at Animal Kingdom.
It's Animal Kingdom?
Yeah, it's a Dino Land. They're getting rid of all that.
Oh, I knew that was going. I didn't know what that was going to be. Okay.
It's going to be Indiana Jones,
So is the Stunt Spectacular going away from studios?
Now, that I haven't heard. The only thing that I've heard from studios is that Muppets is going away. They're getting rid of Muppets and going. I know. I was so heartbroken.
But I heard that Rock and Roller Coaster is going to be a Muppets ride.
Yes, it'll be Muppets version of the Rock and Roller Coaster, which is fine. It's like, we're still. It's like inviting somebody over to your house and they're on their phone the whole time. They're there, but they're not. You know what I mean? So it's like, that. And then I'm sure Monsters, Inc. part will be awesome. All the new stuff will be awesome. I'm not opposed to that.
I did see they were going to have a Harryhausen's, though.
What was that?
How well do you know Monsters, Inc.?
I know it pretty well.
Okay, so the sushi restaurant they go into, Harryhausen's?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've seen, and I hope this is true, that they're going to have a Harryhausen's.
Okay.
Restaurant.
Okay. I hadn't, and that very well could be, because you're talking about the area that it's 30 years old, that area.
I know.
So, it is time for change, but
do they still do the lights? Do they still do the light? Like, remember that big light display that they used to do at the holidays at studios?
No, that was the Osborne lights. Yeah, they got. Do it. Oh, Christy, when was that? It was
20 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was probably like 2008 or 9 was the last year they did it.
I'm behind,
because it went from they didn't want to say the Osborne family tree lights anymore. They say it was called Spectacle of Lights. So on your shift on your schedule, it said SOL. So you're like, great, I got, baby. Yeah, I got 5 days of SOL, baby.
Well, that was like when sorry, you can cut this out if it's inappropriate, but I remember seeing FOF.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Festival of Fantasy.
FO?
Yeah.
No?
Well, the difference, like I said, I told you earlier about Kimmy, my friend Kimmy that I stay with in New York. I said my Psychi, and you were like, And that was
I did. I was like,
move it, shake it, celebrate it. Yeah. That was the
yes.
Yeah. So that's what we call it. My
right after me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was
right
my psychi. Yeah.
Yep.
So everything, but it's funny to hear abbreviations like my job now is I'm the courier for our school district, so I bring all the mail and stuff and packages and stuff. I had to do that 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days I do like custodial deliveries and stuff, like to the schools and stuff, whatever they order. Well, we have a place called Transportation South, and I just abbreviate. I write TS, and every time I want to write Town Square, because that's all I knew for 17 years was Town Square was TS. You saw that on your schedule, and you're like, oh, I'm at an expo again, or I'm at I'm at the flagpole or Mickey Floral or whatever. I don't know if you ever if you had heard this. I've said this before on a podcast, but when I first started, I go to the parks now and I see you might see some random characters, and you might see one character and they'll have an attendant with them, or a greeter. We used to call them greeters.
Yeah.
But now they're attendants. You see them out there, and then I'm like, okay, when I first started back in my day, I had 5 VIPs at Mickey Floral. That is suicide. That's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I did it. I'm telling you, I don't know how I survived without getting carried out by some crowd of mad people, I mean,
that reminds me of, so in Hong Kong, so I was their first contract, right? Like first holiday season, first everything. And it was one of those things where it was like, they had the Disney culture was not there yet. Like, it was not like everybody was sort of figuring it out together. Right. And there were several days where the park hit capacity, because there's this, I think it's called, Golden Days or something like that. No, Golden Days, Japan. There's this large holiday where a lot of, people from mainland China would come to Hong Kong, and they were, because Disney was the new thing, everybody would come. Well, the park hit capacity. And when I tell you that park hit capacity, there were these two, as you go up to the castle, there were these two sort of tent pergola kind of things that were, they were themed to the castle. They looked royal, where, princesses would do meet and greets. And it got to the point, and they had not figured out, this is people's first time at a Disney. So they don't, necessarily understand that there's a line, there's a queue. And it was so bad at one point, they had to take ropes and rope off the other, because it's, 4 poles with a, royal looking tent on top. They had to rope off a thing, and trying to get my Susie and Perla offset without safely. I literally had Susie and Perla, and I was because they, they're mice. They can't see a whole lot. And so I've got them, and I'm walking them to safety. Not because anybody was trying to do, I mean, guests can get out of hand anywhere. But it was a safety issue. I was they can't see, they can't navigate this. They're not, they're not able to have the face-to-face interaction with people in the same way that, a human character does.
Right.
And just say nothing of their field of vision. So literally, that is one of those things that's ingrained that I will never forget, is how, I mean, it was to the point that they had to make announcements. The park is at capacity. Please come back tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That was the wild, I'd say Wild West. It was in the East, but you know what I mean? It was brand new. Nobody had ever really experienced anything like that. Yeah. At least not the people who were there. It was an interesting time.
Well, that's like when I used to work at Epcot, and you would work on. I only worked a few New Year's Eves over there, but you work on New Year's Eve, and everybody by 5:30 was already trashed. Oh, because they've been drinking around the world since 11 a.m. And I was I would just use my better judgment, go safety, and just walk right off set with whoever I had. I mean, it was it was a no brainer. And I was I just want somebody to say, hey, you need to go back out there. I'm I don't feel safe out there, guys. For one thing, you can't move. 2, these people are not in their best judge of a frame of mind. They're not. Who's to say what they might do? They could put somebody in a headlock or whatever, or pick them up, or who knows? I would just rather leave the possibilities elsewhere and not take on to that, go from there. But
well, and that's like the thing that's so wild about the entertainment. Like the New Year's Eves that I worked, I was doing shows, or I was doing, I was separate. There's that separation. I was either on float, or I was in a show, or I was or I wasn't working. But like that's one of those things that is just so wild that you're like, especially in an environment like Epcot, where there's so much opportunity to not be sober and not make your best choices, that it's just like, okay, this is, and some people do make they make choices that are family friendly and fine, and some people just don't.
Well, and it doesn't help that you have like a 45-foot promenade that just creates more people. I mean, that's why I love Epcot, because you don't feel as like confined as you do when you're walking through, say, Liberty Square or, Fantasyland. You got those tight turns here and there because they weren't thinking about the mass quantity of people coming through there. They just made it big enough for, okay, we'll make it an X amount, how wide. But then it's like Epcot came on. They're like, you know what? Let's double that. Let's make it bigger, Animal Kingdom's the same way. They got huge promenades. Hollywood Studios is not. It has some areas where you can walk down the street. You don't feel like somebody's on top of your back in a crowded time or situation. But majority of the time, it's like, like I said, you take those side walkways and stuff, and it's a little. It can get kind of dicey, but it throws me off when I go to the park and you're at. I'm starting to hate crowds, believe it or not. I can't believe I lasted as long as I did with crowds. But if I know for a fact that, hey, we're going to go to the park and it's a certain day, and I'm like, I'm good. You guys go have fun. I don't want to go and do, you're probably going to do little as possible because it's so crowded. And I'm at the point.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm at the point where I just walk around and look at everything anyway. So, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, even we were at Mickey's Not So Scary. And that's a separate hard ticket event. They empty out the parks.
Yep.
That still felt, that felt crowded. Like, especially in Fantasyland, it's where stroller parking. Like, it felt so crowded. And I was just like, why does it feel so crowded when there's significantly less people than are normally in the parks? But it felt crowded.
Well, I think certain areas, because not everything, like a hard ticket event like that, like Mickey's Not So Scary or the Christmas party or whatever they have you, and they have that extra hours, even remember extra magic hours back in the day, rope drop. Not everything was open. Like there were some things like basically Adventureland was shut down because you couldn't go in the treehouse. You couldn't do. Now sometimes Jungle Cruise was open, but Tiki Room was like, So you're like, there's like 4 attractions in that land, and 2 out of the 4 are down. Yeah. So that's less people there. That will be taken away from the crowd, and you keep going. Right? It's like, they just didn't. I don't think they really thought at the time, hey, we're going to be able to do this stuff at night, and house these people.
It's interesting. Like, I wonder if they were to, well, I don't have to wonder. I've not been to the Shanghai park, but I remember in Hong Kong, when that opened and that was new, they did it, they do it in phases. So like the first phase was like, it was like, I think it was Adventureland and Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, I think. But it was, you could get through the park fairly quickly, but they haven't really, other than Japan, which Japan is it's just bigger. It's bigger. Right. The Castle Hub, the distance, and, Main Street USA. Well, it's not Main Street USA there, but it's Main Street,
Main Street.
That's covered. That's covered in Tokyo. Right. And the distance between, the end of Main Street to the hub is much farther. Right. It's just bigger. And so I'm I've never been a fly on the wall in any of those planning meetings, but it's always interesting to me to be like, so we're just going to stick with the same thing then, like, which is why I go back to Disney Sea. It is the same sort of idea. We have the central thing and then the lands that go out from there.
Right.
But it is different.
Right. Thanks for watching this part 1 of a 3-part podcast. Stay tuned for part 2 and part 3 coming soon.